Hello there, John. I ended up talking with a couple about my age about Windows 8 computers, laptops. Which is why I've taken longer than I should have done. I'm surprised the battery lasted, actually, to be honest.
Some People by Herb Geller, ending this week's Jazz Record Requests. And just to say you can hear tonight's programme again anytime you like for up to a week by visiting the Radio 3 website and following the links to the Jazz Record Requests page. On that page you can also find the playlists, which gives some full details of every track Alan Shipton played on today's programme, including full personnel and recording information.
For many cultures across the world, the Four Seasons define life through a...
My guest away this week is the businessman and former CEO of Tesco, Sir Terry Leahy.
My parents were immigrants. I came from Ireland. I came from a council estate. So you don't assume things are going to be given to you.
He's just driven straight through the red light there.
You can't really face the shame of failure.
My guest away, Sir Terry Leahy, on Desert Island Discs tomorrow morning at 11:15.
BBC News at 6 o'clock. This is Vaughan Savage. Good evening. President Hollande of France, on a visit to Mali, has said the fight against Islamist militants is not over, even though they've been expelled from the three main northern cities they occupied. Conservative critics of plans to legalise same-sex marriage say the government has got its priorities wrong, delaying introducing tax breaks for married couples. The Spanish Prime Minister has denied allegations that he received payments from a secret fund. This year's Six Nations Rugby Union Championship has kicked off. The French President François Hollande, who spent the day in the northern Malian town of Timbuktu, has warned that it would be wrong to assume that military operations to rid the country of Islamist rebels are over. He received an enthusiastic welcome from crowds beating drums and chanting Vive la France. Mr. Hollande paid tribute to the several hundred French troops who, with Malian forces, had driven back the insurgents from most of northern Mali, which they seized last year. He said the French would stay as long as they were needed to re-establish control. Our correspondent Andrew Harding is in Timbuktu.
President François Hollande has just arrived here in Mali, and I'm in the back of a military convoy heading with him into Timbuktu. There's an extraordinary scene here in the central square in Timbuktu. Several thousand people have gathered in the sun to welcome President Hollande. The mood is one of enormous joy. It's interesting to note the women here all brightly dressed, their faces showing, things that of course they couldn't do when the Islamist militants were in control here.
We weren't free. Now we are very happy, this woman is saying. Thank you, President Hollande. The man himself plunges into the crowd, shaking hands. An emotional day.
today and a boost for the president's popularity back home. But there are risks ahead here. Later, addressing French and Malian troops at Timbuktu's airport, Mr. Hollande tried to strike a balance on the issue of France's exit strategy from this conflict. Fighting is not over, he said, and it would be a mistake to think that just because we've secured towns like Timbuktu, we can stop there. We will continue at Mali's side. For now, the Islamists have vanished into the vast desert north of here. There's talk of elections in Mali, of reconciliation, and of West African troops taking over from the French. This remains a dangerously fragile nation.
Some Conservative MPs have expressed their frustration that the government intends to push ahead with plans to legalise same-sex marriage, but is refusing to include tax incentives for married couples
on the way home now.
Budget. There were suggestions the tax change could be brought forward as a way of minimising opposition to same-sex weddings among Tory backbenchers. A senior source insisted tax breaks would be introduced before the next general election in 2015. Here's our political correspondent Tom Barton.
In what has often been a turbulent marriage between David Cameron and his backbenchers, relations are becoming more strained. MPs will vote on Tuesday on whether to allow people of the same sex to marry in England and Wales. The idea is stridently opposed by several Conservative MPs who say it would undermine the institution of marriage. Talk of softening the blow by bringing forward plans for a tax break for married couples to next month's budget has been smacked down, leaving critics like the Tory MP Peter Bone feeling that the coalition has got its priorities wrong.
We can't have tax breaks for married couples, which were promised in our manifesto and in the coalition agreement. And now this week we're being asked to redefine an institution that's been in place for hundreds and hundreds of years. Nobody's manifesto, not in the coalition agreement, not in the Queen's Seat. What on earth is going on?
That frustration isn't just being felt in Parliament. Some opponents of the bill claim grassroots Tories are handing back their party membership cards by the dozen. But those who support it, like the Conservative MP Jane Ellison, say the policy is bringing others to the party.
To see it only as something that perhaps loses us support is wrong. I mean, a great many people, a great many young people support this measure, and their voice is really important in politics too.
Of course, any potential rebellion on Tuesday isn't strictly a rebellion. Conservative MPs are expected to be given a free vote. That, though, won't party colleagues pass through the opposition lobby.
The Food Standards Agency is to meet major food retailers and suppliers on Monday, after it emerged that traces of pork had been found in pies and pasties labelled as halal meat products and intended for consumption by Muslim prison inmates. The prison service has ordered an urgent investigation. More details from Jane Francis Kelly.
This latest discovery has dealt another blow to consumer confidence and upset Muslims who are forbidden from eating pork under Islamic law. The Ministry of Justice says it has withdrawn the products involved and suspended a contract with a supplier while an investigation is undertaken. These tests were commissioned after it emerged some British supermarkets unknowingly sold beef burgers containing horse meat. Professor of Food Policy at City University, Tim Lang, says it's becoming more difficult for the Food Standards Agency to regulate the industry.
What we've had in the Horseburger saga of 2 weeks ago, and now with this, is the complexity of the food supply chain being exposed. Even when a prison or the Home Office is the ultimate contractor and the prisoner is the ultimate consumer, as opposed to the consumer in the Tesco, even there, they don't really know what's going on.
Steve Wern from the regulator doesn't deny the food chain can be complicated. The investigation will have to track down the source of the DNA, examine if other food has been affected, look at the certification process and whether it was a case of contamination or mislabelling. But Mr. Wern insists they will be tough with suppliers and retailers when they meet them on Monday.
Consumer confidence is at risk, and we want the food industries together to step up to the mark on this and to make sure that they can take action, including, as some of the major retailers have already announced, further testing and routine testing of their product to make sure that people can trust that what it says on the label is actually what's in the food.
Experts say although safeguards are vital, ultimately there has to be an element of trust which the industry can't afford to lose.
The Spanish Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy has emphatically denied allegations that he and members of his governing Popular Party received unofficial payments from a secret fund. The country's biggest newspaper, El País, had earlier published documents which detailed alleged illicit payments by big businesses to the Popular Party. As our correspondent in Madrid, Tom Burridge, reports, several hundred demonstrators have protested outside the party headquarters, calling for Mr. Rajoy and others to resign.
As a small but angry group demonstrated outside the ruling Popular Party's headquarters, the Prime Minister addressed colleagues inside. Mariano Rajoy bluntly denied that he or other senior members of his party had benefited from improper payments.
Nunca he recibido ni he repartido dinero.
I've never received or handed out secret payments while in this party or anywhere else. Never. I will say it again, this is false. Everything that has been said and everything that you can insinuate from it is untrue.
Mariano Rajoy was pressured into a public denial by a series of potentially damaging allegations. The Spanish newspaper El País published documents which it said were the Popular Party's hidden accounts, written by the party's former treasurer. On the documents was the name of the Prime Minister. Today, Mariano Rajoy gave a confident response. He implied someone was guilty of a smear campaign. However, such widely reported allegations chime with a widely held perception here in Spain that politics can often be dirty. Add in the economic crisis, and some of the damage to the government's reputation has probably already been done.
Wildlife experts believe hundreds of birds have died because they were contaminated by a sticky substance off the south coast of England. They say if the source of the problem can be located, there should be a prosecution. About 250 birds which were found alive are being cared for by the RSPCA. Here's Alexandra Mackenzie.
The oil may be colourless and odourless.
Right, okay, we're here, we're home. That's it for now, I'm afraid. Be in the house in a minute, well, a few minutes. Speed looks faster on this broadcast because of the frame.